You are about listening to an audiobook titled Let Your Talent Speak, as read by the author Chike Emmanuel Igwesi and presented by True Word Resources. This inspirational book has already transformed the lives of so many people and will surely have a positive impact on you. Happy listening.
Chapter 1. Men of like passion. Learn from them. It was Abraham Lincoln who said, "If I have 10 hours to cut down a tree, I will spend the first 6 hours sharpening my axe." This means that to achieve a given objective, planning should be a matter of priority. When this is done properly, execution and achievement of the set objective becomes easier. One major tool you need to overcome the challenges on your way to greatness is taking a critical look at how people who faced similar challenges in the past were able to surmount their mountains. This will build up confidence in you. An important element that has so much helped and is still helping great men is the unwavering belief in oneself, irrespective of situations and other people's opinions. Going by opinion polls, Abraham Lincoln is today voted as one of the greatest presidents America ever had. This same person was at a time in his life seen as a failure. People must have laughed him to scorn when in 1852 he indicated his interest to go into national politics. But why would a man adjudged to have failed want to be involved in public affairs? He believed in himself. See his failure record. In 1831, he was jobless, having lost his job when his father was moving house. The next year he ran for Illinois State Legislature and was defeated. He had a business failure in 1833. In 1835, he had a nervous breakdown. 2 years after, he ran for Illinois House Speaker and was defeated. In 1843, he came out for U.S. Congress nomination, but got defeated. He lost Congress renomination in 1848. He was rejected for land officer position in 1849. Lincoln delivered a classic speech, expecting to be applauded for his research and eloquence, but his audience remained indifferent. In 1854, he ran for U.S. Senate but was defeated. He came out again in 1856 to run for nomination for vice president but got defeated once again. In 1858, he still ran for U.S. Senate and was defeated. But if I may ask, who or what can stop a dogged and determined person from achieving his or her set objective? This explains why in 1860, the man with outstanding record of failures became the President of the United States of America. If Abraham Lincoln could, then you can, if you do not give up. Let us consider another prominent figure in the person of Dr. Benjamin Carson, who is an African American born in Detroit, Michigan. Ben's mother, Mrs. Sonia Carson, was an illiterate whose husband divorced and allowed to face the challenge of single-handedly raising her 2 boys. In order to provide for Ben and his brother Curtis, Mrs. Carson worked in 2 or 3 places at a time. She would go to people's homes to help them do their house chores and be paid for such services. Things were so difficult for Mrs. Carson and her 2 sons that they sometimes relied on the social security provided by the government, an assistance that Ben detested going to collect because it was viewed as a thing meant for the very poor who could not fend for themselves. Apart from the terribly poor economic background of the Carsons, Ben also had his equally terrible poor academic background to contend with. He was so backward academically that his classmates called him dummy. Then he thought he could never get anything right in the class. He was always at the bottom of the class and so became an object of ridicule. Ben's mother became so worried about his poor academic performance that she had to take some drastic steps to save the situation. She cut down the number of hours her son spent watching television and ensured they did their homework before playing or watching any TV program. She equally insisted they must memorize the multiplication table in addition to reading at least 2 library books every week. Ben and Curtis did not like these measures, but they could not resist the love with which their mother made such impositions. They reluctantly obeyed. In a matter of weeks, something happened in Ben's class that fired his reading habit. His teacher brought a rock sample to the class and asked them to identify it. No one could. Ben eventually identified the rock, as he had met it in one of the library books he had read. The class was amazed that the dummy could get what they all failed. This was the turning point in the life of Benjamin. He wrote, "It was at that moment that I realized I wasn't stupid." Ben saw another picture of himself and picked up from there. He moved away from the bottom and began to top the class. He developed an attitude of nothing short of excellence. After his high school, Ben attended Yale University, where he obtained a degree in psychology. Afterwards, he attended medical school of the University of Michigan and studied neurosurgery, one of the most delicate aspects of the medical profession. In spite of the discrimination against the blacks then, he rose to become the director of pediatric neurosurgery at the world-popular Johns Hopkins Hospital, Baltimore, USA. The so-called dummy has performed a lot of feats in his field and is being celebrated all over the world today. You too can be a blessing to your generation in spite of whatever challenge is facing you right now. Unless you have a positive mindset, the talents in you cannot manifest. Believe in your ability to change the world. Do not allow those who cannot see what you are seeing to get you out of focus. When John Bunyan wrote The Pilgrim's Progress, he was highly criticized for using allegory to picture what people felt should be spoken using clear and straightforward terms. Imagine being rewarded with strong criticisms for the work he suffered to do while in the prison. John must have felt so bad, but summoned up courage to publish the work. The book eventually turned out to be a classic work that is still being celebrated even centuries after the death of the author. The book has been translated into over 200 languages and is about the best-selling book after the Bible. Moreover, John was able to make a lasting impact in spite of his poor academic and family background. Hear what he had to say. "My descent was of low and inconsiderable generation, my father's house being of that rank that is meanest and most despised of all the families of the land." Does this make any meaning to you? I hope it does. You and your family may be low, inconsiderable, mean, and despised like the Bunyans, but you can still make a remarkable impact. It depends on you. The name people call you or where the society classifies you does not change what God calls you. Even when they have drawn their conclusion that you will not amount to anything, you must not agree with them at the expense of your self-actualization. You may have to distance yourself, and I repeat, you may have to distance yourself from anybody that does not believe in you or your vision. The people who despised Jephthah and would not associate with him for a fault that was not his were the same set of people that traveled a distance to plead with him to be their leader when they realized their survival solely depended on him. Judges chapter 11, verse 1 to 8. The people that look down on you today could be the same people that will look up to you tomorrow. If you still doubt the possibility, go and ask Pastor Tunde Bakare to share his personal experience with you. Alternatively, Read the life history of late Chief MKO Abiola and see how he rose from abject poverty to wealth and international repute. Seek to rise above your challenges.